Good morning, everyone. My name is Raghav Jagannathan. I'm the president and CEO of a company called Cobot Inc. We are a software company based out of New Jersey and the creators and developers of KLapper, a generative AI powered virtual assistant builder platform. So today we're going to look at a quick brief demo of KLapper and how law firms are using our product. And also we're going to explore how KLapper ships plugins for Microsoft Copilot within Microsoft Teams that makes or adds more value to your Copilot investment, especially to tap into your knowledge management systems using the power of Copilot and KLapper plugins. So what you're looking at here on the screen is a KLapper dashboard. KLapper is a truly innovative platform. It's a platform designed by attorneys for attorneys. One of the key benefits of a platform like KLapper is to create very powerful generative AI-powered virtual assistants, chatbots that can learn from your knowledge management systems. For example, NetDocuments, iManage, Lexis, Elite, Adder, and SQL Databases, ILTA, Foundation, or any interaction or any of the knowledge management sources that you have. KLapper ships intelligent connectors so that you can connect to these applications in a secure way and train that assistant. The assistants can do stuff on behalf of the attorney as well. So not just from a knowledge perspective that it can do Q&A, an assistant can also help the attorney complete their timesheet or log an IT support ticket or apply for a leave on their behalf. So we look at all those scenarios of how KLapper can help you launch a truly incredibly intelligent assistant within minutes. During this demo, as I said before, I'm also going to cover how KLapper can be used for creating plugins for Microsoft Copilot that can extract intelligence from NetDocuments, iManage, and many different sources, knowledge sources within your firm. Before we get started, we're just going to open up a couple of poll questions. Feel free to respond to these questions at your leisure. The poll will be open for a couple of minutes. So as I said before, the KLapper platform is really designed for non-technical users, business users, to create very intelligent, smart assistants that you build once in this no-code platform, and they can deploy it across 16 plus channels, including Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and many other web applications. Creating an assistant is super easy. You can see a simple, clean user interface especially helps knowledge attorneys, knowledge workers, innovation manager to create assistants on the fly without having to go through a complex training process. So I can simply create an assistant here. Give it a name, give it a description, and just like that, I can simply click the create button, and within seconds, KLapper will create an assistant, a chatbot for you that we can train it with any of the knowledge sources that you may have in your firm. So we take all the plumbing, the engineering from behind the scenes completely out of the picture from the front end so that the knowledge team members can just focus on creating assistants. Just like that, within 30-35 seconds, you can see an assistant born and basically provisioned in your Azure tenant. One of the key things about KLapper, which is very important to notice, is that KLapper is a platform that deploys on the firm's Azure tenant as opposed to we as a vendor hosting it. And that makes it super secure in terms of the content that it learns. So KLapper learns any learning of KLapper in terms of as we feed documents to this assistant or some other assistant, all those information that KLapper learns lives securely on your firm's Azure tenant with no access for any vendors, including us. And KLapper's pricing model is incredible. KLapper is priced at just $10 per user per month, which is 1/10 of the cost of our competitors. So here, just like that, I've created an assistant. As you saw, within seconds, it creates it, and I can basically go and train that assistant with a lot of data. But before we're going to do all that, we're going to see some use cases of how a KLapper assistant can be used in the firm. And then we're going to look at how this assistant was trained with data sets, and then we're going to conclude with Copilot integration. So the part of this presentation, I created this assistant called Legal Services Assistant, and it has a lot of things going on here. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll notice how we have something called a Knowledge Builder module. A Knowledge Builder helps you train KLapper with data content from your local computer that you can just simply drag and drop into KLapper, including folders, files, documents. Web URL helps you connect KLapper to internal applications, external applications, websites, network shares, folders within those shares so that it can learn content from there. File URL basically helps you point to online file repositories, Dropbox, Google Drive, so that you can learn, or even just simply an internet file that KLapper can learn from. And you can also see the SharePoint connector that you can basically connect a KLapper to any SharePoint data, including lists and libraries and pages, to get the content. So from some of the other connectors that we ship here, we have the NetDocuments connector and the iManage connector, depending on which DMS that we use. For NetDocuments connector, we basically have the ability to connect to any NetDocument source live, so you do not have to download any content from NetDocuments. You can simply connect to a cabinet, a workspace, a folder, and train KLapper on those data. And often this question gets asked, like, what does the training mean in KLapper? When you connect using our intelligent connectors into NetDocuments, for example, in this example, when you connect to a workspace or folders within a workspace or documents within that folder, within that workspace, KLapper can connect dynamically to that source and learn that content real time without the need to download that content from NetDocuments, which some of our competitors do. So you don't have to grab all the document and feed it into a platform. You can simply connect to it. So I can simply select the agreements and can go and select all the documents within it or selective documents, and KLapper will read those documents, never download them into its LLM database, and learn them on the fly. So it learns every single word, every single paragraph, forms an opinion that we're going to then look at some examples of how you can query that content. Same with iManage. With the iManage connector, KLapper can connect to any iManage source and basically learn from that source. So I can do the same thing. I can live browse a iManage repository, again, based on my access, and I can train KLapper on a specific workspace-related content. Any training that I'm giving, any documents that I select here, those documents, the training of that is limited to that assistant. So think about KLapper as an assistant builder platform where you can design and create many different assistants that does certain things depending on the use case or use cases. So you have the ability to create an assistant for each practice, or you can create an assistant by client matter, and you can deploy these assistants across 16+ channels, including within Microsoft Copilot as a plugin in Teams. So let's look at a few use cases of KLapper, and we're going to come back and then explore how the skill builder works, where you have the ability to power KLapper with skills, effectively doing stuff on behalf of the attorney, executing common actions on behalf of the attorney, like timesheet, and even querying the database, like the time and billing database, to get actionable alerts. So we'll look at that. And you can see some of the skills that I've added here. We'll look at that. Part of this presentation, I went ahead and deployed this assistant for a global consumption across my firm using the deploy to options. So with the KLapper Designer, it just makes it super easy. So you don't have to be super technical to create a deployment package. You can simply say deploy to Microsoft Teams, and it automatically creates a package for you that you can simply give it to your Teams admin, who can run the checks and balances on that package so that they can deploy that for firm-wide consumption or a specific channel consumption or team consumption or a specific group consumption. And we support all those different channels, which means that you build your app once, your assistant once with KLapper, and then you deploy it across your favorite channel, depending on the use case. So part of this demo, I went ahead and deployed KLapper, this specific assistant, legal service assistant, to my Copilot, which we'll see in a second, and also to my as an app in my Teams. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some examples. So you saw that KLapper, that specific assistant, has been trained on a lot of data sets. It's been trained on some web data, some files, also some content from SharePoint. As I said before, we can connect to a SharePoint list or a library, pages. We can really learn any content in SharePoint, including metadata. And you can see that it's learned the metadata and the content from this contact list, which is right here. And notice how within this assistant, you also have the ability to deploy it to as a SharePoint search extension. So we're going to look at how the same chatbot, this assistant, can be used in Microsoft Teams. For example, here, I'm going to ask the question. And the same assistant can also be deployed in SharePoint as a chatbot or as a search bar. So we're going to look at that in a second. So we're going to go back here. And the same assistant has been deployed here within the search interface. So I have the ability to ask it questions. So I have some questions prepared here. I'm just going to use, for example, because it's been trained on the events list in SharePoint, I can simply type in those words and it will automatically get the results for me from that specific SharePoint. So the idea behind KLapper is to create very powerful, intelligent assistants that is powered by your knowledge from your business applications, your knowledge systems, and then you can deploy that across N channels. It can Teams or in SharePoint as a chatbot, as you can see here, or as a search box, where you can power your guided search within your intranet using the Power Generative app. So just going to finish some more examples here. For example, I can go and ask it one more question using the same search box. I'm just going to ask it a question on some notaries in New York and Texas and whatnot. And all this information it's learned from SharePoint. So we'll come back and show you that. So I'm going to switch over to my Teams app for a second, and I'm going to show you our skills. So with KLapper, you have the ability to create skills that does stuff for you on behalf of you. We ship a number of skills like Whois skill to look up people from your Azure Active Directory, or even schedule meetings where you can create a Zoom or a Teams meeting, where I can simply issue a command to KLapper in SharePoint or in Teams and say, look, Whois Raghav is available right now. Let's schedule a meeting with him at that time. But the more popular ones are the timesheet skills. So I'm just going to quickly show you an example of that. So I have a predefined query here, where as an attorney, I can simply go into my Teams here and just going to add a command here or a prompt that says, can you enter 3 hours today for a specific matter that I'm currently working on? And I can simply send that to KLapper, and because it has the timesheet skill inside it, the KLapper has the ability to do timesheet on behalf of the attorney. In this example, it's simply going to add a time entry where I'm impersonating a different user. We're using, for demo purposes, a timesheet application called Harvest, but it doesn't have to be that application. It could be any application that your firm uses. It could be iTimekeep from Adderant, it could be Time by Ping, it could be Intap. Really, sky's the limit as long as it's a modern application that supports microservices or web services. And you can see just like that, it entered into time for me, so I can go and have a look at it in Harvest to see what exactly happened. And you can see here, it entered time on behalf of me. As I said before, because it's just time entry is just one example. There are other examples as well where KLapper can do stuff on behalf of the attorney. For example, it can create support tickets, especially if you're a CIO or an IT director and you're looking to streamline your support management using a powerful assistant. You can very easily do that. You can simply have KLapper skill built out or we use one of our predefined skills called create service now ticket, or frankly any service application that you're using for IT support, and add that skill to that assistant and deploy that in Teams and SharePoint. And now I can simply go back to my assistant, and as an end user, I can say things like, okay, my laptop K key is not working. And because it uses large language model, it'll be able to understand that and understand the sentiment of what I'm trying to say here. And it goes ahead and creates a ServiceNow ticket for me in ServiceNow. Again, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can achieve with modern microservices-driven application with the KLapper Universal Web Connector. So KLapper has a unique connector that can connect to any microservice, any web service on the modern stack using REST API, not to get too technical here, and it can connect and do both write to it and read to from the service. So applying for leave, or applying for entering a timesheet, or approving expense claims, or simply doing IT support tickets is some of the key examples and scenarios that we are driving for law firms. So beyond that, the last demo I have on the KLapper side before we transition to Copilot, plugin for Copilot, is our ability to interact with time and billing data. So KLapper has a unique connector called SQL Connector that has the ability to connect to any modern database, both on the Azure SQL side as well as SQL on-premises. Remember, KLapper deploys on the firm's Azure tenant, meaning that it's designed for basically connecting to your data set because it's part of your extended private cloud network. So which means that it has the ability to connect your SQL data warehouse or your SQL intelligence stored for other applications. So here I have an example here of a matter skill, and I'll show you just very briefly how these skills are constructed. It's very simple to create a skill. And these skills basically use the power of our connectors and prompt engineering to connect to that data set or data service and get the data back or perform an action. So here, for example, I can simply ask a question to find all my active energy matters. We're going to connect to a 3D database, and it gets the context of who I am because I'm logged out at KLapper.com on this specific instance, so it automatically knows who I am, and I've issued the active command, so it's going to get on me all the current active matters sample data that I'm currently working on as an attorney. So beyond this, and I'm just going to issue a stop command, there's going to be a lot of matters coming back here. At any point in KLapper, you can issue a stop command that will just stop the streaming. In terms of SQL data, time and billing data, and actionable alerts, especially when it comes to billability KPI or missing timesheets or any of that, KLapper supports the ability to proactively or reactively deliver the data set. So with KLapper proactive alerts, it can proactively deliver data to you in Teams. Or you can reactively ask a question to KLapper. For example, the same assistant, as you remember, I deployed that in SharePoint as well. So I'm just going to simply type in request a status of a specific matter that I'm part of, and it can simply go and find that status and tell me a little bit more details about that. All that information just comes from the SQL data, from the data warehouse. So how is this magic happening? So we saw how KLapper was used to, the specific assistant in KLapper was used to train a lot of SharePoint data set, NetDocs, iManage data set, but we also saw how it's been enhanced with skills. So the skill part, the magic happens through our prompt engineering and connector. We're using a combination of simple English and our connectors like SQL or iManage or SharePoint or Universal Web. You have the ability to extract the words from that prompt, pass it to a procedure, a stored procedure in SQL or a web service call using a Universal Web Connector, and simply use English to format the output. So you don't need to know JSON, you don't need to know all those fancy stuff to work with KLapper. The formatting of that output was simply done by using a simple English command. So we're going to just pause for a second. As a transition to Copilot, we will run a quick poll right now, just to get a feel of what connectors excites you in KLapper. All right, so while we transition to that, let me go back to Copilot in Teams. So far what we've seen is how easy it is with the KLapper platform to create very rich, powerful integrations. With the power of generative AI, KLapper connectors for SQL, for SharePoint, for NetDocs, for iManage, for any modern knowledge application like Foundation or Interaction using web services, we can connect to those applications, learn the data, and respond back in a very intelligent way. We can also perform actions on that data. Like, for example, we can, KLapper assistants can do timesheets, apply for leave, do expense report, expense approvals, and so on. With the Copilot integration, we're extending that intelligence into a Copilot. Copilot, as you know, the plugins, may or may not know, Microsoft Copilot plugins are currently in preview, and they are only available in Teams. And that's why KLapper assistants today is becoming more and more popular, because our assistant can be deployed beyond Teams as a SharePoint search bar, as a SharePoint chatbot on a website and whatnot. From a Copilot perspective, we ship plugins. So KLapper can be, the assistant can be expanded or exported as a plugin that you can then import it or side loaded, as it's called in Microsoft Teams. So once you side load the plugin, as you can see, I have two plugins here side loaded called NetDoc Share 1 and NetDoc Share Beta and iManage Share 1 Beta. These are two software products that we have in the market that lets you view, edit, sync, search, iManage or NetDocs content in Microsoft Teams. With the KLapper plugin for Copilot, you can simply sideload these plugins and enable them. And once you enable them, you would need to do a one-time authentication to that, and then really sky's the limit in terms of the type of queries you can do at this point. So let me show you some examples. For example, using the magic word NetDocs or iManage, because a firm typically use either one. It's not going to use both. But with our by using the right keyword here, because I've enabled both the plugins, I'm just going to tag along the word iManage so that I don't confuse Copilot in terms of where I want to get documents from. So depending on the plugin has intelligence built inside it, so that when it encounters certain keywords, it'll automatically get those that specific information I'm looking for from that respective DMS. So you can see here it has the ability to perform a search on iManage for a specific document that I'm looking for. And I can simply click on, and this example is for Cloud iManage, but we do support both iManage Cloud as well as iManage Work Server. So I can simply click on the document, the view button, and it'll open up the document in preview mode right in iManage Work Web. I'm going to show you one more example here. You can also find documents by name. We can also find documents by metadata. So for example, here by title and by metadata, the column that is an authored by column by Shiva, it automatically will go and get that detail. So while it's doing that, I'm going to show you some other examples here of, there you go. Just like that, it finds all the documents that I'm looking for from within iManage. So again, just switching gears to NetDocuments for anybody who cares about NetDocuments DMS as opposed to iManage DMS. So you can simply switch to context here just by using the magic word NetDocs or NetDocuments. So here I'm going to just simply find some documents for a specific matter number. Again, it could be by matter names. And these are examples that shows how you can very easily look up content from either NetDocuments or iManage using the power of KLapper plugins for those specific DNS products. So let me run a couple of examples here. There you go, it just finds it from NetDocs, and I can simply click on the view button and open the document that I'm looking for. The one thing I want to showcase here as a last scenario for Copilot plugin is the ability to find or even check on a specific type of documents by metadata. For example, here it says, can you check whether we have a playbook, an NDA playbook? Because I want to use that, I can simply send that command through Copilot, and it uses the KLapper plugin for NetDocs to go and find that information from NetDocs real time. So again, all the stuff that I've showed you here can be easily done right from within KLapper. If you don't want to use Copilot, or if you're not looking to use Copilot, I could have done everything that I showed you right now right within my KLapper Assistant deployed in Teams. But if you are using Copilot, you can absolutely use the Copilot plugins, KLapper plugins for Copilot to search on your favorite DNS product. And we're extending this beyond. So because as you saw with KLapper, we have the ability to connect to many different applications, not just iManage and NetDocs, our SharePoint integration with our SharePoint connector, our iManage integration, our SQL integration, our web service integration with Universal Web Connector really opens up the door for you to connect from within through the KLapper plugin to any knowledge application, either through the KLapper Assistant or within Copilot. The last thing I want to show you here is our ability to train KLapper with data set, and some of you may be interested in multilingual capabilities. A lot of firms, especially law firms, focus on international law firms have more language requirements. For example, a Canadian firm has a requirement trained in French documents, but you want English speakers to query that data. For example, here before the demo, I trained KLapper on a set of documents in a NetDocuments workspace, and one of the documents is in Spanish. So I can easily go back to my assistant that I've deployed for global consumption, and I can ask questions in either English or Spanish, which makes it incredibly powerful. For example, here, even though that document is in Spanish, I can ask the question in English. That would help KLapper, and with KLapper multilingual capabilities, it has the ability to do real-time machine level translation to find that information that I'm looking for. So it finds it directly from that document, which is actually in Spanish. And the fun doesn't stop here. You can also query that content also with French or your favorite language. So I'm going to stop here for a second. I know we have a couple of minutes left. If there's any questions, I'm going to check the poll just to make sure that we don't miss any questions. The first question I see on the Q&A here, and feel free to please send us your questions. We have a couple of questions that's already come in, so I'm going to answer them. So feel free to ask us as I answer along. The first question on the Q&A is, it's on the Azure tenant. Is there additional cost? Yes, correct. So there is an additional cost for hosting KLapper on your Azure tenant. It's significantly cheaper compared to a cost that you would typically pay per user per month to one of the competitive products out there, because these costs are directly controlled by you guys. KLapper requirements typically puts the a monthly cost at less than $1,000 per month for the hosting, from what we've seen so far, for learning over 1 million pages. So if you fed KLapper 1 million pages, it costs around $500 per month as a one-time cost. And then the hosting services around that will be probably around that same number. So it comes to around the $1,000 we've seen from a hosting perspective per month. But again, you don't have to pay any markup to some of the third-party vendors. You're just directly in charge of the cost. The second question here is, can a Power BI report be part of the training set? Yes. So Power BI, any Microsoft 365 data, we recommend training data should be basically coming from directly from the source. So you can train data directly from the SQL data warehouse, directly from that data set that your Power BI is using. We don't recommend training it on a Power BI report. Can you differentiate? The next question here is, can you differentiate between ND direct integration Copilot and the example you gave? That's a great question. With the NetDocuments Integration Copilot, as well as the iManage Integration Copilot, they are not currently publicly available. With our software integration today, you have the ability to directly connect with NetDocuments and execute the search that I've shown you. So these plugins can be side-loaded right away with our plugins for Copilot. So it's available today. You do not have to be part of a private preview or whatnot. One last question here that's being polled is with our skill builder, which is a timesheet skill. The question is, can we add timesheet to any modern timesheet platform? Yes. So you have the ability to integrate. The timesheet skill I showed you was just an example of how we can connect to a Harvest timesheet application, but it has the ability to connect to any modern timesheet application that your firm uses. So on that note, we'll respond to some of the other questions as a post-webinar response. Thank you so much for your time. That concludes the webinar.